Today I want to share with you the Siena. We have the Podong Indigenous Peoples Initiative, which we have co-created, co-designed, and are co-developing with Indigenous peoples from around the world. This initiative seeks to support Indigenous peoples' conservation actions on the ground, strengthen Indigenous leadership, and also promote Indigenous traditional knowledge for the achievement of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and also the Paris Agreement. In essence, we are seeking to support Indigenous-led actions on the ground for conservation and climate solutions.
I want to thank you for honoring Tanzania as the host, but for honoring UCRT as well. And I also want to take this opportunity to welcome you all.
Podong es una iniciativa conjunta entre la IUCN y el FIP y las organizaciones de pueblos indígenas de la IUCN. Es una iniciativa que se desarrolla en forma conjunta, que es diferente a otras iniciativas, pero que también tiene como esa estrategia conjunta, ¿no? Desarrollamos, implementamos en forma conjunta.
We are implementing Podong in Guatemala and Panama, which is Mesoamerica, and there Tzotzil is leading that execution. Then in Tanzania we have UCRT, and in Nepal we have NEFIN.
This is just officiating on the ground level that we officially launched Podong.
Our donor for the first phase of Podong is Global Affairs Canada, who contributed $7 million Canadian for this first phase, which we have kickstarted and is running through this year up to March 2026. The new elements of Podong are super key. One, it is doing conservation differently. We are working very closely with Indigenous leaders from the inception, from the dream of this having Podong as an initiative that covers conservation and climate actions by Indigenous peoples on the ground, incorporating traditional knowledge, and also ensuring that we support the leadership of Indigenous peoples in the implementation of Podong. A new element that we have in Podong is establishing a new finance mechanism for Indigenous peoples, by Indigenous peoples, with Indigenous peoples. If we look at the finance architecture that currently exists and all the pledges around the world for both conservation and climate action, very little of these resources are arriving in Indigenous communities. In Podong, the idea is that we establish this finance mechanism, which will be the mechanism that receives large-scale funding and then channels nothing under 80% of these resources to the ground for implementation of conservation action in Indigenous communities.
As I said, we are honored to be part of Podong, and our role is definitely scaling up the work we've been doing for the past 20 years. And so we will be working on land tenure security for Indigenous people here in Tanzania. We will be working on governance and management of the landscapes in which Indigenous people live. And we will also be working with women to establish women rights and leadership platforms, which are basically spaces in which women have their own voices and share their own issues. But again, they are able to get different trainings on leadership, economic empowerment to bring women on board in terms of decision making, particularly in relation to land and natural resource management.
It was very exciting to see in Tanzania this week that Podong is already having massive impacts on the ground. We were able to visit the region of Simanjiro this week, and we were part of the process of handing over communal land titles and individual land titles to the Maasai communities in Simanjiro. over 100 individual titles were handed over to indigenous Maasai peoples, of which 70% were indigenous women. 16 CVLs were handed over to indigenous communities, and this is massive because Podong is already showing that in a short time we're able to support land tenure security on the ground. This is the dream.
You see, Podong is hope. It's something that we are hoping, and it's something that is motivating. It's an innovation that we have had as indigenous peoples. And right now, if you look at what Podong is, that basket alone, even though maybe you may not relate it only to women, but also men, but it's very, very important for the women because they are the ones who have initiated the Podong according to what it means. That the woman can carry that basket, put anything in it, even carry the children to the farm, carry back the product, do as many work as possible. This is going to be much more easier for our local community, our local women also, our indigenous women on the ground to relate to it because they carry everything in their back. So when we take it down to the rural women, it will be very good because they will relate into it and they will see the importance of it. And we are hoping this is something that can also help them to be more innovative also and have other initiatives, other mini Podongs in the community level.
I want to take this opportunity to share with you that we will be organizing the World Summit of Indigenous Peoples and Nature in the framework of the World Conservation Congress. And the idea is to bring together at least 75 indigenous leaders from around the world to come to the IP Summit, join us to do a review of our achievements for the past 4 years, our priorities for the next 4 years, and to create that synergy and linkages and network of indigenous peoples so that we can be advancing the indigenous agenda jointly within IUCN.